Most NBA teams come into each and every season hoping that they're going to get a breakout between one of their burgeoning young players that looks like they're becoming a star or a role player that really steps up and have a big season. On today's episode, we've talked a lot about the potential breakouts of Josh Giddey, Miles Buzelis, Coby White, those type of things. I want to talk about which one of the Chicago Bulls role players could have a standout season for the Chicago Bulls this year. And also, are the Bulls now going to be made to make a big decision between Ayo Dosunmu and Coby White with Josh Giddey already under contract? We're going to talk about all that, plus dive into the mailbag right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go into this content for today. I want to start off talking about this. Which one of the Chicago Bulls role players are set up to have a big season this upcoming year? And by role players, I'm not talking about the players that we know are going to be big parts of the Bulls offense or the rotations. For example, we know Coby White is going to be the leading scorer. We know Josh Giddey is going to be the leading playmaker. He's going to be the starting point guard. And Miles Buzelis is the next up and coming, hopefully, Bull that's going to, be and get right into that level of us talking about him as being, maybe the best player on the team, star level potential, all that type of stuff. So for that conversation, I'm going to leave them out of it. And also for the nature of the conversation, I'm going to leave out Nikola Vucevic because we know who Vooch is as a player. He's a veteran. He's long in the tooth. Vooch is who he is at this point in time. Not to say that he can't have a big season potentially like he did last year and stepping up in some of the biggest moments for the Bulls. He can, but I'm leaving him out of this conversation as well, right? So that leaves, when you look at it, I think everybody else on this team is basically, there to play a role. You got Kevin Huerter, Ayo Dosunmu, Zach Collins, Isaac Okoro, Jalen Smith, Dalen Terry, Patrick Williams, he still has to be on this list, Noa Essengue and Trey Jones, right? And even though Zach Collins is a player that, he's a veteran as well, him and Kevin Huerter have been in the league for a long time. I think when you look at the potential of them having big roles for this Bulls team, you got to ask, could they be some of those players that get into a really good rhythm, especially Kevin Huerter, right? Over 15 points per game as a starter last year for the Chicago Bulls. And, with a extra year of now, having a training camp with these guys, could he have a really big season as a role player, right? Breakout isn't kind of the right word. Kind of want to more focus on having big seasons for the Bulls. Ayo is probably the easiest one to pick here. With Ayo Dosunmu's role changing every single year, he's going to be coming into this season, whether he ends up starting or coming off the bench. He's going to have probably between 25 to 28 minutes per game for the Chicago Bulls team. And because of that, and his ability to play multiple positions, he's one of Billy Donovan's most trusted players. He can guard multiple positions. He's going to leave him out there to play a lot of minutes for the Bulls, right? And we've seen over the last couple of years, and I've talked about this on yesterday's episode, what he does as a starter. Really good numbers. Go look at it. Over 50% shooting from the field, over 40% shooting from three as a starter, specifically the last couple of years. And so there's signs of that burgeoning, kind of really important piece on the roster being there, right? And Ayo has a great chance. Okoro coming to this team for the first time. We don't know exactly what his role is going to be. He could compete for a starting role. He could end up being a bench defensive player as well. But we talked a lot about Okoro, Ayo, Huerter. We're here recently when we talk about the three. And then so you're looking at could for example, Julian Phillips, right? A guy that, Julian was getting off the bench some before Patrick Williams last year. And while I do know there are some people that are like, well, the Bulls are paying Patrick Williams $19 million. They're going to have to play him above. And that didn't happen last year. And, we got a voicemail on that. I'll get into that a little bit more here in a second. But I think when you look at all these guys, all of these, you hope that a number of these guys are going to have really solid seasons for the Chicago Bulls, right? But I think the one thing, and I'm not going to call it a true big season or breakout, but I think the one player in this that everybody should want to end up being the name that we talk about at the end of the season is damn, did you see how he came on late in the season? It's Noa Essengue. I mean, that's the easy pick here, right? We know that he's not going to have a lot of minutes early on, but you hope that he's going to have something similar to what Modest did last year, as far as have an opportunity to his role to increase over the course of the season, and hopefully by January, February. Like, this guy's starting to play some really key moments, and it's going to come down to defensively for him for the Chicago Bulls. But then another guy who I've said before is a dark horse is P. Will. And I do think, like, there's always going to be a chance that P. Will can put it together in the sense, in the realistic sense of what putting it together looks like for P. Will now, right? I think the time has passed, the ship has sailed for people that once thought that P. Will could, like, ascend to being this, like, 16 5-5 player, 16 4-4 player, something like that, right? Now it comes down to those 9-10-ish points per game. Can you give that consistently while playing really solid defense? And if you can do that in a bench role, that's a solid role enough for you. And you know, I've talked about maybe people dropping some of the weight to go back to small forward, those type of things could be there. I've compared it like to when Kirk Heinrich wanted to come in and he realized, hey, I'm not going to be the point guard no more. Rose is the point guard. Let me put on some weight so I can be this full-time shooting guard. After D Rose came in and Ben Gordon left, Kirk made that change to his body, and he pretty much kept that up after that point, right? So, you know, so that's what you're looking at. If P. Will can really zone in on what his role is, and now the expectations for you to be the Bulls' up and coming next big player is gone. Just go out there and do what you do and do it really well consistently, right? P. Will can do that. I think that could be a solid season, but I think you want a combination of all these guys to have major seasons for the Bulls, because while no matter how high you are on Josh Giddey, Coby, Vooch, Modest, no matter how high you are on those guys, you need those other players that are going to step up and play a little bit above what their role is. And who is going to be that guy for the Bulls, if any of these guys are that for the Bulls this season? Because it could be a realistic world where everybody just kind of is who they is and who they have been. And, you know, we go through the season and we go through the season. So, you know, let me know what you guys think on that, though down below. Out of Kevin Huerter, Ayo Dosunmu, Zach Collins, Isaac Okoro, Jalen Smith, Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips, Patrick Williams, Noa Essengue, Trey Jones, right? And you know, not all those guys are going to be in the rotation as is. I think that's a key thing to mention. Not all those guys are going to be in the rotation, but who do you think is going to be that guy that we look at and is like, hey, he's doing his job and he's excelling at it and he's an important piece for this team. And maybe even it gets to the point where maybe Acme does look at keeping one of those guys. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. But one of the questions that now is on not everybody, that's on a lot of people's minds, I've seen several articles on this, is that are the Bulls going to be willing to pay Josh Giddey, Coby White, and Ayo Dosunmu? Now, I've told you guys, I've gone over the financials of it. They can pay all those guys within reason, right? I think you're looking at Ayo probably $16, $18 million per year. And, you know, the P. Will contract, as people have pointed out, could be, you know, a thing that people like, hey, I'm not making less than this guy, right? Like, and it could be. We know that we've heard that Kobe's looking for over $30 million. I've talked about the reasons of that, but like, what needs to happen, I think, is the case here this season for the Bulls to feel confident in paying all three of these guys. Now, I want to be clear here. This is AK that we're talking about, and this is an AK where veterans like Zach Collins, Kevin Huerter, Nikola Vucevic are all coming off the books. I could very well see a world in which Vooch resigns for a team-friendlier deal. I'm not saying it's going to be like a steal of a team-friendly deal, but a friendlier deal than probably what he can get out in the open market. I can see that happen, especially while the Bulls don't have another starting caliber center. But you know, we'll see what happens with those moves. But you know, I could see that the Bulls keep all these guys regardless, right? One thing about AK is that he's going to want to hold on to the talent that he has. And while I get where the articles and the thought process comes from, oh, well, is he going to want to pay all three of these guys? But you got to keep in mind, the Bulls are adding a rookie scale contract every year now. Whereas, you know, some they had second, round rookies, which don't get paid as much. They got all their first round picks. They got all of them now. And so, you know, you're adding another pick to that talent pool. And so therefore you want to, it makes it, the more rookies that you have that you look at as part of your future, part of your rotation, the more you can pay on some of the veterans that are still around here while those rookies aren't getting their next extension, right? And I think that's a part that plays into all of this as well. Now, the Bulls have the most cap space in the league next year, and that leaves them a lot of flexibility in how they can build this roster. But are they going to be forced to make that decision? And, you know, while Coby and Ayo can play together, I think that for a lot of this, it comes down to, because Ayo can play multiple positions. There's no question about that. The 1, 2, and the 3, even some small ball 4, which I wish Billy Donovan really wouldn't use him a lot at, but it's Billy Donovan. You know, Ayo can play multiple positions. So there's always going to be a case to keep Ayo because of the versatility that he's here. For Coby, I think it comes down to the investment in the backcourt of Coby White and Ayo Dosunmu. And if Coby gets paid the 30. Let's just say he gets the 30 million. Between Josh Giddey's 25, that's 55 million for a backcourt, which would put the Bulls right around the middle of the pack as far as payments for their starting backcourt, which I'd say, okay, what you do around them is cool. It's not like the Bulls are like breaking the bank to where, they have a top 5 backcourt pay and we're still a playing team. Like, they'd be paying a middle of the court backcourt money for a team that's been in the middle of the pack, right? So, that's what you have to ask there. And, AK has always been a player that doesn't necessarily get rid of talent unless he's changing direction or has a clear replacement for that guy. And so I don't see any reason why that would change, but I want to hear from you guys on this one, both sitting in the mailbag for tomorrow as well. Like, do you think the Bulls are going to have to be forced to choose between Coby and Ayo, or do you think they're going to do what a lot of other teams do? And keep this in mind too. Just because you sign a player to an extension doesn't mean you can't look to move them, which the Bulls actually have done before as well, right? Like, a lot of teams do that. Players that, they lock in the money and then they may find a deal later on, right? And so we'll see what happens in that part. But let me know what you guys think on all of that down below. Let's get into the mailbag portion for today's episode. We got 4 voicemails to get into. This one's for Michael Korn.
Hey, it's Michael Korn. Hope you're doing great. Just finished listening to your show today on Ayo. I didn't get to the 4 hot takes, but I just wanted to echo your comments and add one of the reasons I really like Ayo's game is I always note how cerebral he is. I get the feeling he's a real student of the game, and I just like where he's at on the court. I'm not sure if he's going to start, but what I'm pushing for, and I'm asking your opinion, what are the chances that we see Ayo close games? Do you think of the 3, Kevin Huerter, Isaac Okoro, or Ayo, that Ayo gets the most run at the end of the game because of not only his defense, but I don't mind the ball in his hands or leading a fast break on a steal in the last 2 minutes or so. But anyway, great show. Really looking forward to the season beginning. I've been listening to you this whole time. And one thing I want to point out is, or you may have said in the past, but for the Bulls rotation, I really want to see Noa Essengue get some minutes, and let's see what he can do. Hopefully he turns out to be like an Ayo, like getting a lot of minutes because of his defensive ability and his game in transition. Anyway, great show as always. Come on, season. Looking forward to a Bulls team that finishes just above 500. Anyway, talk with you later. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Ayo is one of Billy Donovan's favorite players, right? So, like, I think as things stand right now, he'll be in the closing lineup for sure. I think his defensive versatility, his ability to guard multiple positions, that sounds like a player that you want in most closing lineups, especially for a team that doesn't have a lot of defenders. And so if you need that stop, I think there's a safe bet there. Now, I think it does come down to who ends up being the better on-ball defender of the better players. Is it going to be Ayo or is it going to be Isaac? And if it is Okoro, then it leads you to a place to where maybe then Ayo isn't in that closing lineup. But Billy Donovan's shown, he has no fear of going small. I think this also in how Modest steps up defensively this season as well. If Modest takes a pretty large step up defensively, it makes it a little bit better. But yeah, I think that Ayo for sure is going to be in the closing lineups. I'm not really worried about that. I think that when you see how Billy trusts him, I'm not saying that Ayo is the same player as Caruso, but he's kind of assumed that Caruso role for this current team under Billy Donovan, meaning that he's the player that Billy Donovan trusts no matter what. If it's guarding up, guarding down, he trusts Ayo in there. And then also Ayo's decision-making, low turnovers while getting steals, those type of things. So I think it's a safe bet that regardless if Ayo starts or not, he's probably going to be in that closing lineup for the Chicago Bulls, and I think the Bulls are going to be better off for it. So that's my thought. Great voicemail there from Mike. Let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Reginald.
Hey, this is Reginald, just calling after hearing about, Josh Giddey signing a 4-year, $100 million deal. I know I'm a lot late, but I just want to say it was a great move for the Bulls. For those, I want to say Bulls fans who said that they would have wanted to move off of 20 or 22 million, I think they're stupid. Because Giddy could have easily just said, you know what, forget it. I'll just play on the team option qualifying option. And after that, the Bulls would have had to trade him at the deadline. And knowing, the Bulls, they probably would have gotten more than, a team's first rounder who needs to change the situation because they can't, crack the starting lineup, and maybe a couple of second rounders, which, AK doesn't care about. And it would have just been a bad move, and it would have been considered a waste for what we gave up in Alex Caruso. So yeah, I approve that for the $100 million, we got him cheap. And that I think Isaac Okoro is going to start being the starting lineup as the starting small forward. I know a lot of people think Ayo should do it, and I wouldn't be mad at it, but I think it'd be better for him to come off the bench with Trey Jones and Kevin Huerter. And yeah, I know Kevin Huerter needs to get in a rhythm early for him to be truly effective. But I don't think his minutes are going to change that much. I think he's going to get 20, 24 minutes. And with Trey Jones and Ayo, and, he's going to have free range to just shoot it when he gets his shot and he gets open, which is what we all want. Hey, if you have it behind the arc and you have a green light, shoot it. But yeah, the question is going to be the backup four. And I know we all are pistoling in Patrick Williams, but I'm not sure. I think Julian Phillips has a decent chance to take that backup power forward role simply because he's been improving every year. And the question is whether or not he can put it all together this year. But I have no faith that he will, so, who knows what's going to happen there. But thanks for hearing me out. What's your opinion?
Giddy's deal is a good deal regardless. And, I know the people that get into, like, Giddy's deal is a really good deal for the Chicago Bulls. I think it's a solid deal for Josh Giddey as well because of his age that he's going to be when he gets back out in the free agent market. And, he has 3 years to be like, hey, for all those that doubted if I can be the type of point guard I've been telling y'all I'm about to be, all right, let me go out there and show it. And I think that's going to clear a lot of it, right? Now, as far as Ayo as the starting small forward, we'll see. He's going to make his case for it, and we know Billy Donovan isn't opposed to playing 3 guards out there. I think the thing that comes down to it, as well as the bench, and a lot of people pointed that out. Like, yeah, okay, you can move Ayo into the starting lineup. Do you trust Kevin Huerter as a scorer off the bench, or do you trust Ayo with his versatility and defense more with playing with Trey? And that's going to be the thing too, right? It's not. Keep in mind, just because you're a starter doesn't mean you're a closer, and it doesn't always mean that the starter plays more minutes than the person behind them. So we'll see how Billy Donovan does, but Ayo's going to have his case to be made to be the starter for sure there, right? And as far as P. Will, I don't think most people are, see P. Will, just doing it. I do think that there are a segment of people that think, oh, the Bulls, they'll pay P. Will, they won't pay him just to not play him. And then my response to that has always been, well, last season, Julian Phillips was definitely getting off the bench before P. Will. There were some games where Julian and Dalen were getting off the bench before P. Will, and that was without Ayo Dosunmu because he was healthy. Lonzo wasn't healthy either, but now you replace that with Isaac Okoro, right? So I don't think that it's a foregone thing that P. Will is gonna get a bunch of minutes on this team. I don't. Like Vaughn, pointed out like in his YouTube comment the other day, he was like, well, P. Will at center. I don't even think that the P. Will at small ball center. I think people, and I understand it, the people are trying to find minutes for P. Will because what P. Will has meant to this team before and the contract, and that's fair. I just hope that it comes down to who's bringing it, and it doesn't come down to the contract. It comes down to who is giving you the best opportunity, and we saw some signs of that last year with Julian Phillips and Dalen at times getting off the bench before P. Will. And it comes down to how much do you trust Okoro's defense over P. Will and his defensive slide last year. I think that's going to be something that plays a part into it as well. So we'll see. We'll see. But, I'm not going to say that P. Will isn't going to be given an opportunity. He should be given an opportunity to earn it. And if he earns it in training camp and in preseason with his play, great. But if he shows another sign of slipping like he has in several other years, there are more than enough guys now that can play both the positions that P. Will can play, that could be willing to bring it, that could push P. Will to not really being a major part of the Bulls rotation. And we shall see. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Hayes? This is Shay. Look, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I think Isaac Okoro should be our starting small forward. Look, I know that he might want to go for Kevin Huerter, but for the most part, man, we ain't got no defense in the starting five. And when you think about it from a logical standpoint, we averaged over 100 points last year. We don't necessarily need him to do much of a play defense and to hit open three once in a while. Look, I know a lot of people gonna have their opinions, but hey, Isaac Okoro definitely should be the start small forward. And another thing, I believe he's our dark horse to have a good season. Everybody's talking about, Modest Buzelis and everybody else, but Isaac Okoro, when you've been let go from your original team, you're looking to prove a point and prove that what they did was a mistake. Hell, look at Lonzo Ball when he came to the Bulls until he got injured. Bad comparison, but hey, like I said, Isaac looks like he's looking to prove a point. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
The case for Okoro being the starting three, I mean, it's there. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, right? But, to the way people have pointed out as well, like, let's be clear here. Ayo, Huerter, and have both been better than Isaac Okoro over their careers. They just have. They played more minutes. They've been better. They just have. It is. When you look at statistically, they have. Now, does he have the potential to be an amazing defender? Yeah. But I think also people have kind of boosted up a little bit. Okoro has never been a lockdown defender. He hasn't been. I'm not saying that he hasn't had games where he's absolutely shut down some, but consistently a lockdown defender, he's not been that either. He has the chance to be that here. And the thing is that I love to hear about is that he wants to be that for this Bulls team. When he was traded here and he had the little clip, he didn't really talk a lot about shooting, scoring, or anything. He said, "Listen, I relish in the opportunity to go out there and shut down the opposing team's best player. I love that mindset because if he locks into that role, does it well, and that's his focus, and at that point is just hitting open shots, great. There's always going to be a role for a guy like that on the team. So we shall see. It does come down to, like, what does Billy Donovan want in the starting lineup? I look at it. Kevin Huerter is more offense, but he was okay defensively last year, but offense, passing, those type of things, he did really well. Isaac Okoro is more defense, but he can knock down open shots. And Ayo's really kind of the meld between, right? He is really solid defensively. We've seen games where he's been really good offensively as well. He has some offensive upside. And it really comes down to how Billy Donovan wants to balance that. And I guess we shall see. All right, let's get into the last one, man. This one's from Rack.
Hayes, this is Rack from Palos Hills. I want you to clear up something for me. I'm looking at Spot Rack and it says we have space of $21 million. And we're locked into that first apron maximum of $195. With $21 million available, can't we get a doggone good young rim protector for $21 million? Is there no one out there that can improve upon Collins or Smith? I'd like to hear you comment on that.
Okay, so yes, the Bulls do have $21 million in cap space, bro, but just because you have cap space doesn't mean that you have the target. You have to have the player. And when you say go out and get a young rim protector, those things are coveted in the league. Now, those type of players are coveted in the league. Yeah, Dallas has two of them with Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, right? But they even have been kind of relatively slow to move off those guys, even with AD and Cooper Flagg and PJ Washington also being on that roster, right? So, like, it's not that simple that just because you have that, the Bulls also don't have an open roster spot. Keep that in mind as well. And so those guys are difficult to get. You either have to get those guys in free agency, which now that is passed, or and we've already talked about the targets the Bulls could look at as far as restricted free agents to try to find that guy, or you draft that guy. So it's not as simple. I wish it was as simple as walking to a supermarket and you got $21 million. You're like, hey, what can we get as far as a rim protector for this 21 we got? but it's not that simple, right? You have to have teams that are willing to come off those guys. You have to have the right situation and the right thing to give up. And usually those guys aren't giving up for just scraps either. So I think that's the thing that you have to look at with that. Now, next offseason, that could change. There are going to be a number of guys that could fit that next offseason. We've talked a little bit about before. There's a video on the channel on that, but we'll see what the Bulls can do in the next like 12 months to go out and find that guy. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.